Welcome to Pathways, a career podcast from the Idaho State University Career Center. I'm your host, Mark Beaver. Today, we're speaking with Karina Rorris, Director of Disability Services at ISU. Karina's position is obviously integral to our institution, but what's really interesting is to hear how she got to such a high leadership position, given that she was a first-generation student and non-traditional student and didn't even really work directly in her field for many years. But it's how she always was able to identify her strengths and carry those as a through line that allowed her to move forward into the position she's into today. Please settle in and enjoy our conversation with Karina. Hey, Karina, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
I really appreciate this.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. So you have a job at ISU that is extremely important. I think it's not one that a lot of people, maybe or at least myself, didn't really realize was a big part of the higher ed landscape. It's something that I, of course, recognized in elementary school and high school and junior high as a part of the landscape. But it's an extremely important part of the institution, what we do. So I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your job and maybe just kind of a snapshot of what that's like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm the Director of Disability Services here at Idaho State University. And what we do is we provide accommodations for our students, employees, and visitors that may come to campus. So those with disabilities that may have certain barriers, we work towards removing those by providing the accommodations and creating that equal access. We find it super, super rewarding too, and I have an amazing team, and we just love what we do. I agree with you also that it's vitally important for our campus community and for our students especially, so that it's a tool for them to be successful or to help them to be successful while they're here.
And so do you work mostly with faculty or in like departments that are hiring students? Where do you find most of your efforts being channeled?
So, well, the main population that we do serve are our students, and we do provide accommodations actually if we have faculty members who have disabilities, but we also do work very closely with faculty because they may need to help in that process of providing accommodations. So let's say a student needs extra time on an exam because of disability and functional limitations associated. We would need to work with the faculty to understand how they may proctor their exams typically, or what those exams might look like, and work with them to coordinate so the student could perhaps test in our office at our testing center. We're a resource for faculty who may have questions, or maybe they have a student that has disclosed that they have a disability, and they'll work with us and refer the student to our office. So it is a good pipeline, and that relationship with faculty is super important. They're very important to us, and that partnership is.
So this job, what can you give me just like, what is like the day-to-day? What do you spend a good part of the day doing, just to kind of give listeners a feel of what does this actually look like?
Okay, so day typically starts out with maybe like a lot of us on campus, hundreds of emails, but we get a lot of emails from students who may need to schedule their exams with our office or schedule to meet with one of the advisors or me to talk about accommodations to get them started, or to maybe revise their accommodations, or maybe they're just having a tough day and they need to schedule an appointment or time to visit with one of us. So each day really it's not really the same, though. We have, a lot of things come up every day that are just different, and we have things that are scheduled, and then we have things that come up and they require our attention right away. So,
do you like that aspect? Do you like having that kind of a little bit of like, I know what today might bring, but also kind of never know? Is that something that you enjoy?
That is personally something that I really enjoy. I think the type of person that I am, I definitely thrive on just that really fast-paced, busy environment, and maybe the high stress. I kind of gravitate towards those types of jobs and environments, and love the problem solving. Love that I can, if I'm hit with something that just is really difficult, and just finding a solution and navigating through the situation, navigating through policies. How can we have a positive outcome? So love that.
So are those things that you've known about yourself for a long time, that you kind of thrive in that fast-paced environment, and also the problem-solving aspect? Are those things that you've kind of seen in yourself, or is that something you've been kind of figuring out in the last, I don't know, however many years?
I would say it's been the core of who I am, but it's probably been maybe this past decade, and as I've grown in my career and through education, that I've come to learn that those are kind of core things as to who I am and what I gravitate towards. Looking back throughout my career, even in my personal life, or just even helping friends and family, I seem to be this person that people come to when they have concerns, or they're struggling, or they have issues, and they just maybe need someone to listen, or if they might be seeking advice and guidance, or just need some support. And with that, oftentimes comes needing to learn how to, with that comes maybe a little bit of that high stress and needing to problem solve, and really being creative as to how we go about that. And throughout my career, I definitely have had jobs that I've kind of been thrown into, maybe wasn't even necessarily qualified to be in, but I've just never been afraid of that, and just dove right in. And it was probably this beautiful chaos, but I would just dive in and be thoroughly engrossed in it, super happy and energized, and would love when I was able to navigate and clean things up, fix things, and just end up with this, perfect outcome, or this nice outcome, or the, beautiful process. And just love those challenges and working towards overcoming them.
Yeah. That's such a gift when you can kind of recognize something in your personal life, in an area that maybe people tell you, you're like, oh, you really have a skill in this. And then when you realize how that can apply to a job, even if you're not really qualified for that job maybe, but you have that transferable skill set that, even if you're thrown into the beautiful chaos that,
Right.
you can kind of use some of those skills that you have to get to an outcome that's favorable to you and to the organization. Yeah. That's also, I think, that situation, I think, a lot of people would find themselves, this is something that comes up a lot in career talk, is imposter syndrome. So if you're thrown into a job where you don't necessarily feel like you're completely qualified or have the skill set, you can get kind of bogged down in that imposter syndrome, kind of scared to take risks or move forward. But maybe for you it's natural, but I think it's something that maybe people can kind of train themselves to do, is think of it as more of like, this is an awesome challenge. Let's figure out this puzzle. Like, instead of getting bogged down in the imposter syndrome, more, how am I going to figure out this puzzle? I think that's a pretty cool gift.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, and I think I definitely have throughout my career have experienced some imposter syndrome. I think a lot of us do, but having some self-awareness of that, and also having, I guess, what some of my strengths might be, is not really being afraid of that either. I can overcome that quite easily, and I just look at that problem and I embrace it and just move forward with it. But I do love, understanding imposter syndrome, because I do have a lot of colleagues or students even that I've worked with over the years that have experienced that. And it's something that I'm able to identify as I'm meeting with them and talking to them, and then maybe I can coach them through that so that they can have that confidence to move forward in their careers and realize that they are worthy and they do have the skill set or the transferable skills,
Right.
and they deserve to be where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great that you can recognize those pieces of your own journey and be able to kind of work with students in that more personal, connected way, the related way. Yeah, I've experienced this too. It's normal. Here's some ways I've worked through it. Before we got on air, I was talking to you how one of the purposes of this show is hopefully not just for students and career seekers to kind of understand what jobs are out there and how to get to them, but also for our own staff and faculty here across the university to kind of be able to reflect enough to gain some of these tools to do just that, right? To be kind of like a personal mentor. Students aren't always comfortable cold calling a career center and setting up an appointment to talk about, maybe some of their insecurities, but they often will find either someone they're working for, a boss, a supervisor, a professor, who they do feel comfortable talking to. And so having everyone kind of, have a little bit of that reflection time to think about their paths and what helped them along the way is going to strengthen the whole institution. I mean, it's just so cool to hear that, obviously I think a lot of people already do that, but I just love hearing that when people are already doing that.
Well, thank you. And I agree with you. I think we have an amazing opportunity on campus, and agree that we do have leaders on campus that already do this as well, especially like with our students or even each other, because we, even as professionals, our colleagues, we need each other to kind of
certainly
help each other through those times that we may feel like, the imposter syndrome surfaces as we're seeking a promotion or something like that. But like faculty, as an example, I mean, we have some amazing, wonderful faculty across our campus that are super talented, and they have this opportunity to really engage and interact with students, and if they had that awareness as well, and they could help foster that career growth or that mindset, and help them build that confidence that they need to succeed and to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. One of the I think I'm getting like a pretty good idea of what about like your work life brings you satisfaction. I mean, I think it's got to be pretty fulfilling to work with this population and help them out.
Yes, very much so.
Right. And then also not just that part of it, but you also get some of these things that you just find satisfying in a work environment, being a little bit of maybe that variability on the day-to-day, problem solving, maybe some high stress situations. So outside of work, just in your personal life, your values, your lifestyle, what does this job provide you to give you to help you attain those aspects?
Okay.
What do you like doing outside of work, and how does this job allow you to pursue those things?
Okay. So outside of work, I'm definitely love people. So I'm super social. So I love lots of things. And but some of my favorites would be personal level. I love riding, dirt bike or snowmobiling, just outdoor stuff, just camping, just really enjoying nature. We have such a beautiful area that we live in. I think that my work and my career allow me this ability to maybe to, first of all, afford to do some of those things. Yeah. And that's super important that we, are able to have, and it's feels good too, to work super hard and then be able to afford to, buy a dirt bike or, to go camping or, buy a camp trailer and travel a little bit. In addition to that, it allows me an opportunity outside of work to, as I meet people, to actually, again, kind of foster growth in those around me. And that could be, or to be invited to sit on various committees across the state or even at a national level. And help to maybe, those roles help to maybe advocate for resources or for legislative change or policy change, or to advocate, or to build advocacy skills within, even for an example, those with disabilities. So not only is it the fun stuff that we get to do, but it also affords me a platform to expand my reach to where I can further help at a larger scale and larger level.
Fantastic. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Karina Rorris, Director of Disability Services at Idaho State University. So, Karina, this is something I often do on the show, but I'm just going to take it back a little ways. So, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a kid, I don't know that I had a real sense of what I wanted to do. I think I came from a family, no one had been through college. And so I'm a first generation, was low income student when I did finally go back to school. So I never really had, and I didn't have those mentors in my life that perhaps had those conversations. But I did know, definitely, I always wanted to help people, that I just loved helping people. And I've always been that type of person, even at a young age. So I would be the one that babysitting after school at 10 years old. Probably shouldn't have been babysitting back then at 10 years old, but was. And I would take my money and instead of buying something maybe for myself, or, even saving it for that matter, if I saw someone in need, or there was an animal in need or something, then I would want to help. So I would put that money towards whatever that was. So, or I'd buy the kids I was babysitting for, I would buy them things.
Wow.
So I've always just had that desire and love to help.
And so how did that kind of manifest when you started thinking about careers? Was there some what were some of your early careers? What did you go end up? Did you say that you went to school kind of later? Would you not go right after high school?
I did. Yeah. So my career path is quite interesting. Like in high school, I was very drawn to psychology, sociology, those types of subjects. And then after I graduated from high school, I did enter into a relationship, married, had a child. I didn't go to college after high school. Eventually, I consider myself a non-traditional college student. And I actually worked in the automotive industry, but my roles there were always like customer service heavy, back to just really always helping people. And trying to find, good solutions if things were, if they had, let's say, a vehicle that they were having issues with, and maybe financially they were struggling, what were the ways that we could help for them to, get their vehicle going and be able to afford that, things like that. So I eventually did go back to college, and where it really connected with me is when I went to enrolled actually here at Idaho State University as an undergrad. I started working for the state of Idaho Vocational Rehabilitation, and I was actually an admin. And it was that particular employment setting where everything kind of clicked for me. Again, thinking back to when I was younger, maybe like the helping, just always wanting to help, that really connected. In high school, the sociology or the counseling or the psychology courses were super interesting. And so here I had this opportunity in this rehabilitation counseling field to work with people with disabilities. But what I found beautiful about it is it was a pathway towards employment and successful and gainful, meaningful employment. And it just really hit me right then that this is actually, just a path that I just love this concept and this idea. And so I wanted to eventually go into, maybe I thought, a rehabilitation counselor and maybe working for the agency. But I had this opportunity as I promoted up through Voc Rehab to become the HR manager for the agency. And so that kind of took me in a little different direction. But being in human resources, again, it is about people. It is about developing programs to help employees or to solve problems or conflict and things like that. So again, another good fit. But I ended up getting my undergrad just in general studies because that's all I needed to go into the a rehabilitation counseling program. And then with that program, I was able to pull in a human resource management emphasis as well. And so that's what my master's degree is in. So HR manager for quite a few years. And then I came to Idaho State University in 2011, worked in HR for a few years, and then 2013 landed disability services. And again, it's back to that perfect fit of working with people with disabilities, helping them navigate success through education. But also that can include because we help employees, help them to maybe retain their jobs or just to help remove barriers.
I think it's so cool that you were able to, I guess, keep the vision or see how it was all still moving forward in a positive way for you. Like you didn't get caught up that you were thinking about, going on this track and then this other job opened. It is more that, there's a great opportunity here and it still actually is in line with my values or who I am.
Right.
And so there's still a way that I can move forward kind of positively here, even if it's not exactly what I had in mind or I had been thinking specifically about. I mean, I think that it's so hard for people to kind of see those open doors as opportunities to still move forward. And it's not necessarily going to completely cut off that other line.
Right.
Like in your situation, I mean, it led kind of right back around really to that position.
Right, it did. And I wouldn't have thought in a million years, first of all, I wouldn't have thought in a million years that I would, start somewhere and after receiving like my bachelor's degree, be offered the HR job, right? And again, that gets back to where maybe that imposter syndrome comes into play too, because it was also a job that perhaps at the time wasn't completely qualified for, but I just dove right in and made it work and loved it and loved the challenges of it all and learning. But it again just that whole journey wasn't this straightforward path or something that I knew even at a young age, or that I was transitioning right from high school to college and just knew what I was doing. Yet the outcome ended up being great, you know, and now I'm sitting here in a position where I am successful, both personally and professionally, and now I have this, backing up to your one question, I think the one thing that I've really gotten out of this whole career path in this job is I now have an ability in the position I am to help others, kind of give them a hand out, hand up, right? And provide them some support so that they can one day be where I'm at, or if not, even better, right?
Yeah.
Sky's the limit for them, so.
Well, I guess I just have kind of one question also dovetailing off that. So, I mean, you've talked a lot of this job as a director of disability services. You've been talking about policy and advocacy and a lot of pretty technical skills that are pretty specific to that job. I guess I'm wondering, as you did the sidetrack, but I mean, so you started in that world in the voc rehab position, but as you kind of veered through HR to come back here, what skills or abilities did you pick up there that allowed you to make this transition into this job that you have now?
I think looking back when I started at voc rehab, and this was a combination of working there and with education, working through my education. Some of the skills that I picked up were definitely some essential soft skills, but also knowledge about the Americans with Disabilities Act or Section 504, the Rehab Act. So a lot of law, employment law was a big thing that I picked up along the way. I learned the importance of developing, some core counseling skills, just being a good listener, active listener, and really empathizing with people, which I learned that those are probably core of who I am, but I was able to learn them in a manner that was probably more helpful for those that I served. I definitely learned the importance of self-awareness as well, and learned things like on a technical side. I learned a lot about administrative work too. So the importance of, budgeting and having a good solid budget and how to effectively utilize our budget, especially in times when we have budget constraints.
Right,
How to help make your dollar go a little farther, or if it doesn't, what can you do or think outside the box to bring in resources so that those that you serve can be better served, or served at maximum capacity, and have a lot of tools at their disposal to be successful. Learned one of the things I've never found myself to be good at or didn't really care for is political. But then I've learned the importance of actually how politics may play into resources that you need for your programs to be successful, or for you to have an adequate budget to serve people. Or I never thought of myself as a competitive person, but maybe being also a little competitive because I've got to be at the table with everybody else advocating for that same, pot of resources, things like that. So throughout my career, I've really honed in on those skills and developed those skills further.
Yeah,
too.
That's amazing. It's just amazing that you've been able to, I think, listening to you reflect on it, you're obviously, very present and reflective on these as you're going through it, that you were gaining these skill sets and, just building your net worth as an employee, really. In any area, and then being able to kind of detect where those skills that you were building were going to fit well with something you're also really passionate about, and that being the position you're in now, it seems like is kind of like right where those kind of where the confluence is for those. So congratulations on finding that secret recipe.
Yes, thank you. And now I get to share it with others.
Yeah,
and they can fine tune it.
As we wrap up here, is there any advice that you'd like to give to career seekers out there, whether they're just starting out in college or mid-career thinking about a switch? What would you say to them?
I would say that we don't always have to be in a hurry either. From those that I've worked with that are transitioning from high school to college, it's always this big push to go to school right away, and maybe they're not quite ready, or to have all the answers the minute you walk into the university setting or college setting. Again, you don't have to be in a hurry. And I think developing some self-awareness, or another thing too is as you're working through life, it's okay to lean on others for help and guidance. So throughout my career, I didn't get here by myself either. It did take, I had great mentors and people that cared along the way that really helped me get to where I'm at. Also, the success of my office is not just me. It is this beautiful team that I have around me, and their talents that are at the table. So I would say to not be afraid to rely on others, or to ask for help, or to seek guidance, or to find mentors. So we have lots of those even on this campus too. So, and we all love to be approached and are willing to step up and help.
It's fantastic. I love that. Thank you. And thanks for coming in today, Karina.
You bet. And thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. And that was our conversation with Karina. I love hearing about Karina's path, how she always just kind of kept moving forward. She didn't take the same route that so many people do. She didn't take the route so many people are expected to take. And yet she found her way to a position of leadership in a job that she loves. And I think a lot of it goes back to what she was saying there at the end. Don't always be in a hurry. We're so often in a hurry to get to that next step based on the expectations of society and family, or wherever we feel they're coming from, to just keep pushing forward to the next step. But it pays to take a little bit of time and check in with yourself, and your own values, and your strengths, and your hopes, and just kind of use those as a beacon sometimes. If you're interested in finding out more about your career path, please visit the Idaho State University Career Center website at isu.edu/career. Likewise, if you're interested in hearing about other careers and other people's pathways to them, you can check out all of our past episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and at kisu.org/pathways. Likewise, once a month, you can catch a Pathways on air on KISU FM, the second Wednesday of every month at 7:30 p.m. From the ISU Career Center, this is Mark Beaver, wishing you a fantastic rest of your day.